There's not one way to be here. It's not one way to live here. There's not one way of living.
A new regulation on Richardson Bay threatens to displace what little remains of a unique community that has lived on the bay for decades.
I moved to California 13 years ago specifically to not live in an apartment, you know.
They've built their lives aboard all manner of boats, weathering storms, legal battles, and an ever-changing tide of regulation.
So if you live on the dock, right there, you're not considered homeless. But if you live here, you're considered homeless. Well, why?
Now, a new environmental policy threatens to push out the remaining few anchor outs once and for all. Richardson Bay is located a few miles north of San Francisco and is surrounded by the cities of Sausalito, Mill Valley, Tiburon, and Belvedere.
It's like nowhere else in the world that I've been. And I've tried to go other places. I've moved, lived in other areas, but something always brought me back here. It's like there's a magnetism that's here. It draws people here, and once you've experienced it here, you'll always come back.
For years, people lived aboard boats anchored in the bay.
Some of us have been here for decades. I've been out here for close to 30 years, and it's all the blessing.
Just a few years ago, the bay was filled with an assorted collection of boats and residents in varying conditions. Local officials have viewed the anchor outs as a problem for quite some time. In 1987, the Richardson Bay Regional Agency, which was formed to oversee the bay, created an ordinance limiting anchoring to 72 hours. This ordinance was largely unapplied until 5 or 6 years ago, when authorities stepped up enforcement. In many cases, removing vessels from the water and crushing them. More recently, the RBRA is offering housing vouchers to the remaining anchor outs, hoping to entice them off the water with the promise of apartments on land.
So why has there been, it seems like kind of a ramp up and, kind of a hard push over the past couple of years to really limit the boats that are out there?
The push has stemmed from the BCDC, the Bay Conservation and Development Commission. They've been pushing hard. They opened an enforcement case that says that Richardson Bay Regional Agency needs to ensure that the rules and regulations that are already in place are enforced. And part of that enforcement effort is we're establishing our temporary housing voucher program, our vessel buyback program, all in an effort to enforce the rules and regulations that have already been in place, which is it's a 72-hour anchorage. You can come in, you can anchor for 72 hours. If you need more than 72 hours, you can apply for a 30-day permit. Although it may feel like a push, really all it is it's just enforcement of the rules that were already in place.
Yeah.
The various efforts to remove the anchor outs from the bay appear to be taking their toll. At its peak, over 200 boats anchored in these waters. Today, less than 30 remain. Some have welcomed the lifestyle change offered by the housing voucher program.
How do you like your new apartment?
Oh, it's heaven, man. It's like the second coming of apartments for me. I mean, wow, you got redwood tree on one side, you got pine trees on the other, you got a wilderness area in the back, you got a heated pool here, a sauna, and to have hot and cold running water and shower and bath, which I haven't had regularly for 40 years,
Some have accepted the voucher reluctantly, feeling it's the only way to stop years of pressure from the local government agencies. They aren't happy to be leaving their way of life. or with the terms of the agreement.
To have to be forced to sign a document stating that you will never return. That's America? That is what we're paying for people to have jobs? Well, guess what, America? Wait till they come and knocking at your door. I would have much preferred to blow this son of a bitch up with me on it than to have these guys win.
Others want to stay and fight, questioning the RBRA's authority to place restrictions on the bay, which is designated as a special anchorage area under Coast Guard regulations.
They're making up rules and regulations saying it's the law when it's actually not, because it's a federal anchorage, and, well, the Richardson Bay Regional Agency is superseding the federal guidelines.
Many anchorouts also question the legality of the procedures implemented to remove them and feel that they have been denied due process.
This is not a court order. In the state of California, you have to have a court order. It has to go through a judge. It's not legal on anyone in the state of California. If you live in a box, you have to have a court order. If you live in a car and it's broke down on the side of the road, you have to have a court order. This is not legal because that right there, notice, Richardson Bay Regional Agency has not went through a court. There's no court attached to this. They cannot just decide we're in charge of this, and that's what they're doing.
Now, with the RBRA's creation of an eelgrass protection zone, there is yet another point of pressure. The remaining anchorouts are being forced to move their boats from their current locations, even if they don't move to shore. Pushed aside in what very likely is the final chapter of this unconventional way of life. Concerns about the eelgrass in the bay first gained public attention in 2019.
California Audubon says anchors and anchor chains are scraping the eelgrass off the bottom of Richardson Bay.
So you get these circles around each boat, and it was really shocking how large those circles are.
A few months ago, I had the opportunity to speak with Rebecca about the eelgrass. She is now president of Coastal Policy Solutions, a consulting firm contracted by the Richardson Bay Regional Agency to work on preserving and restoring the eelgrass in the bay.
What is eelgrass? Eelgrass is a flowering plant that lives under the water. It's like grass that you would find in a meadow on land that has adapted through time to be able to live underwater in salty seawater environments.
And why is it important?
Eelgrass is really important for both people and wildlife. It provides habitat for a lot of commercially important species like Pacific herring and Dungeness crab, ecologically important species. It's nursery habitat for things like salmon and sturgeon. So it forms the basis of the whole ecosystem in San Francisco Bay. It's also really important for people because it helps ameliorate some of the most devastating impacts of climate change. So things like ocean acidification and shoreline erosion, all of that is reduced by the presence of eelgrass. So it's really this powerhouse of climate adaptation and ecosystem services for both people and wildlife.
Eelgrass is in decline across the planet due to a variety of factors. Many of the anchorouts are skeptical of the narrative that they are the biggest threat to eelgrass in Richardson Bay. They view it as nothing more than a way to justify the removal of them and their floating homes.
They're not saving the eelgrass. There's no intent of saving the eelgrass. They don't give a shit about the eelgrass. These are the same people that dump chemicals in the water. These are the same people that they just care about funding and money. And this is motivated by taking over this anchorage from the people. It's not about helping the people or protecting the people. It's about taking this from the people. Not to mention, there's no eelgrass underneath any of these places. They just dredged all the way down there. How'd that help the eelgrass? If they're concerned with the eelgrass, why do they keep dredging? Why do they have all these? They're adding boats. They're adding docks. Why? How is that helping? I guess just this boat's the one that's the problem.
Regardless of what the motives behind the Eelgrass Protection Zone are, the result is the same. According to the RBRA, after October 15th, 2024, boats are not allowed to anchor in most of Richardson Bay. As the deadline approached, it seemed like the removal of boats quickened.
13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 with me, 24, 25, 26. Roughly 26 boats, 27, 28. 28 boats on the anchorage right now.
Several anchor outs were placed in housing through the voucher program in the weeks before the Eelgrass zone took effect. A few others took the vessel buyback deal. In a matter of a few days, the number of boats on the anchorage drastically decreased. Several boats were towed to the Army Corps of Engineers to be destroyed.
He took like 3 of them like in one day, I think.
Like this, yeah, this whole neighborhood to the west here, directly west, is like totally thinned out.
It's crazy.
Some of the remaining anchor outs had concerns about what might happen once the Eelgrass Protection Zone took effect.
How's it going?
Well, how are you guys?
Good. Bennett, right?
Yep.
Quick question.
Sure.
I've had some residents expressing concerns to me over the 15th deadline.
Okay.
And I'm curious, are y'all actually going to be writing citations on the 15th for people who aren't in the specified acreage area?
On the 15th?
Uh-huh.
I don't know off the top of my head. I talked to Jim about that.
Okay.
But when I talk to him tomorrow, I can give you the answer.
Okay, is he back yet?
Not yet. We're back tomorrow.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's kind of a fucking pertinent fucking, issue. A lot of people are getting stressed out and stuff, they don't have the proper ground tackle, picking up from shallow water where you've been for a while and pulling ground tackle and setting a new mooring in deeper water is like kind of an intensive thing, Most people aren't even capable of doing that.
Understood.
Very few are.
More information. I know Parker Dive Service, I believe, is going to be charged to help people out that need help.
Okay.
So, are you, just real quick, are you filming me right now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Just want to make sure.
This is
I don't want to say anything that is incorrect right now, so I'll find all the right information and I'll just send you an email.
Bennett did not say anything incorrect. A service was offered to help relocate anchor out vessels.
They've hired Parker Diver Service to assist people in relocating over there. But it's the first I've heard of it.
For some reason, very few of the anchor outs seemed to be aware of this. Perhaps due to the distrust between the anchor outs and the RBRA, communication is not as strong as it could be. Regardless of the reason, I'm aware of only one anchor out who took advantage of the relocation service.
How do you feel about having to move?
Well, it's just a pain in the ass, and this whole eelgrass thing is kind of a joke anyway. You're going to increase the eelgrass growth by maybe 5%, maybe 10%. Just a couple years ago, there were 200 boats out here, and for displacing all those people, the amount of extra eelgrass they're going to get is kind of a joke. It's just too expensive and time consuming to make an argument. So it's easier just to be pushed around.
Wayne was one of the first people to move his boat, which gave him options when choosing where to drop his anchor.
Right about here? Yeah, right about here. All right, neutral.
He tried to get as close to the public dock as possible, while still being outside the Eelgrass Protection Zone.
Well, Wayne, how do you feel about the move?
Mixed feelings, but my biggest issue is I've got to row all the way up in there every time I go to shore, you know. To get to the boat dock, it's about twice as far from here as it was from over there. That means that, like, if the wind is strong enough, I won't even try to row. If it's over 10 knots of wind, it'll wear me out before I get to shore.
The new designated anchoring area is not only farther from the public dock used for shore access, but also in deeper and rougher water than where the boats used to anchor. This is one of several concerns anchor-outs have about moving their boats from where they had been for years.
What will be happening to folks after the October 15th Eelgrass Protection Zone deadline that happens in a few days?
What you mean if they do not relocate out of the eelgrass?
Yes.
Citation.
What kind of response have you had from folks at this point with regards to, letting them know that this is happening?
We've been socializing this movement for the past year. We distributed notices. I talked to folks, and it's the typical range of responses. Some folks will be, okay, we'll move, and some folks are not as excited about it.
I don't plan on going anywhere. I'm not going to leave my mooring to go down to deeper water where it's more dangerous, more likely for my anchor to drag, because then I'd be on an anchor, not a mooring, where it's deeper, rougher waves to appease them. It doesn't make sense. It absolutely doesn't make sense. It's not in anybody's benefit for me to move this boat down there. And then a couple years from now, when they say, oh, well, you don't have, I've been here 11 years, what happens then? I'm not here 11 years anymore, I'm down there for 2 months or 6 months before they put another notice that they just made up on my boat.
Although the Eelgrass Protection Zone took effect on October 15th, widespread enforcement of this new rule was not immediate.
I just talked to Lance. He told me that yesterday that when the sheriff's boat was tied up next to him for about 20 minutes, the harbor master was actually on the boat and gave him a citation. As far as I know, that's the first citation anyone has received.
Buoys marking the zone were installed on the bay in mid-November. At that point, citations were handed out to boats still anchored in the protection zone. Around that same time, Wayne's anchor dragged during a storm. He apparently drifted into the federally maintained channel.
Where you at, you careless motherfuckers? Nazi pole smokers, you're not out here helping me, are you? Guess what I'm doing? I'm going to rescue Wayne Summers, an old man whose life you put at risk. Stupid designated anchorage area.
You wanna fucking go help me? Go help me Wayne Summers out of the fucking shipping channel! He's stuck the wheel in!
Under the threat of citations, some of the anchor-outs have moved out of the Eelgrass Protection Zone, while others intend to hold out for as long as they can. At this time, there are roughly half a dozen anchor-outs still anchored where they've always been. They've held out for years against the pressures from local government agencies and continue to do so, unwilling to be told by others how and where they should live.
The people that shouldn't have been here, they were the first ones to leave. It didn't take much for them to go. But the ones that are still here, there's a reason they're still here. They've survived this long, they've adapted, they belong here. Just leave us the fuck alone, Eventually we'll leave on our own, but not when we're being forced.
If you enjoyed this video, I have several other videos on my channel about the anchor-out community, as well as videos on a number of other topics. The Anchor Out videos are part of a larger project I'm working on to document their ongoing struggle to remain on the bay. If you would like to help me do that, there's a GoFundMe link in the video description. If you want to keep up with this project and other things I'm working on, head over to my website and sign up for my newsletter.